Good afternoon. My name is Shailesh Thakurdesai. As introduced, I take care of the business development activities at TI Bangalore. Now, I think due to short of time, I would like to just cover very quickly. I think people have talked of different communication technologies, and I don't think there is a dearth of technologies as such. Whether you talk of wireless or wired, I think people have been using various technologies. Meter manufacturers are not new to that. I think the challenge from a smart grid forum perspective is something different, which I would like to highlight here. Now, if you look at the regulations part, right, which we have been talking, right, if you look at each of the country, now they are very specific about defining the frequencies, the spectrum. I think my colleague from ADI did mention on the challenging spectrum which we have, right, 865 to 867 megahertz. Now, was it the right spectrum in the first place defined for the AMR applications? Now, to our understanding, it goes back way to the RFID standards when from the HF people migrated to UHF, and then for the wireless readers, the July 2008 Gazette came, which people are now trying to adapt. Now, the reason for adapting is obviously there is nothing much available when people talk of sub 1 gigahertz. Now, that's the one challenge which we really need to see, and as a forum, we really need to see on how we can evolve the standards, and it's not only about the frequency part of it, but what are the emission regulations. If you look at any of the worldwide standards, right, they always talk of an ETSI standard which is driven from Europe, or FCC which is followed by US, and then the Arab standards which are primarily going in Korea and Japan. That's one particular part which is completely missing when we talk of India, that people are talking of RF based deployments, but what are the kind of emission levels are we really talking about? To what FCC standards do we really comply with? And I've just put a FCC part number here because that's what we understand, that people try to comply to this at least so that there are no questions being asked back, but what is the exact standard really recommending? Now, that's something as a question. Now, challenges, I think we have seen certain deployments happening. I think yesterday there was presentation from MSCDCL, there was presentation from Gujarat, where people talk of two different requirements, right? One on the urban, one on the rural kind of requirements. Now, the clear issue here is like, what's the kind of scope in the first place to be defined? I discussed about the standardization part. Infrastructure is something, as we all know, that it has to be customized because there is definitely a variation in the use case. The rural case is completely different. It's 180-degree shift than the urban areas where there is a different challenge altogether. People talk, as I said, of different technologies now, but people are they ready for an hybrid technology? Because maybe one technology works very good for a certain network. So people talk of Zigbee right now, but Zigbee, as everybody knows, is proven in a HAN network, and that's what people use. But now we are talking of meters, and we are talking of a NAN network. Now, is that the right technology to be used? People talk of sub 1G again, which frequency? And obviously people have been looking at GSM GPRS. Now, we know that most of these successful pilots, at the end of the day, it has to be an end-to-end solution. So it definitely calls for an hybrid technology, where I think in a couple of slides which you saw, we have to come up with such kind of a framework. The last part which I would like to mention is again the ownership of the network maintenance, because till date it was okay, right? The meter was being supplied, the ownership was there at the utility level and in conjunction with the meter manufacturer. But now when you are adding the communication part, how do the network maintenance happens over a period of time? And that's one of the things really to be looked at. I will not go through this. TIA has obviously all the technologies, whether it's sub 1G or 2.4G. So I talked about the wireless part. The next part which I would like to just discuss, and for our brainstorming, is the PLC part of it, right? PLC, I think people have tried in the past several times. There have been certain use cases in which maybe it has been successful, but maybe we need to look at the upcoming technologies. And the way we are looking at it is the OFDM technology obviously looks much better. And the reason why I say this is we see most of the countries, especially if you look at the Europe, the way it is going, I think PLC is being adopted in an extremely big way. Now, these are all the, obviously the bands. Again, it comes back to the question that when we talk of PLC, it's a technology, right? But what is the exact frequency spectrum in which we are talking? What is the kind of standard or protocol which we are talking here, whether it's a Synelec A band or a B band, which we should really look at. And obviously the smart grid pilots, I think, which are being put up, the 14 pilots, there should be some emphasis given on selecting some of these right technologies to see that what suits for India. And if a certain technology like a Synelec A band, or let's say we are talking of a certain protocol or a standard like a prime or G3, now which one works better for us, that needs to be done. So if you see, some of these things are very clearly being adapted in certain countries. I just wanted to give you on some of the examples which we see across AMI when we are talking of this worldwide, which countries have adopted what kind of pilots. And this is just as we said, like, the slides would be available for the forum to really look at that, okay, what's the kind of technology being adapted, and then look at those as references to see that what is that we can adapt in India. So again, it's not easy to say that, okay, PLC is the answer, because there will be certain challenges. There will be frequency based attenuation which needs to be looked at. I think in one of the last forums which we were there at MSCDCL, and Ajoy raised a real question, right, that what is the kind of coupling we really use on some of these things. And that is again depending on what kind of loads we are trying to attempt, what's the kind of noise we are trying to really looking to deal with. And some of these are the questions and the challenges which we really need to answer by doing some of the pilots. So one thing which I would like to definitely say is, like, the latest PLC technologies are good to give it a try, but whether it's real readiness for an AMI implementation in India, again we have to go back to the books to define that, okay, which is the exact standard, what's the kind of frequency band, and there needs to be some clear definition based on certain successful use cases which can come up with a pilot which are getting implemented. So with that, I think I'll just skip this. Again, TIA has some of the offerings on these technologies, and I think the forum is open now for taking the questions, and I think we are all here to look at the challenges and then see on what can be the best certain answers for some of these issues what we are seeing. Back to you, Ajay.